Soul's atmosphere is second to none, and the atmosphere is what helps it separate it from its counterparts from games like Neo and Mortal Shell. Not to say that those games don't have good atmospheric scenes, they're just nothing like the Souls game. So next time you play a Souls-like game and you're trying to figure out why you don't like it as much, it's probably because of the atmosphere. Every single area that FromSoft make just has amazing attention to detail, whether it be through the level design, music choices, enemy design. It's all very well thought out. So with that being said, it's hard to actually make a conclusive top 10 list due to how many amazing moments there are. So I did just pick my personal favorites based on how memorable they are. However, I did try to stay away from doing cutscenes because atmosphere built off the gameplay in itself, whether it's through the storytelling or world design, is just something I value more. But yeah, that out the way, let's just get into it. Dark Souls 2 failed in a lot of areas, but one thing that it did not fail in was passing the vibe check. This game has absolutely amazing atmosphere, and it starts right at the beginning of the game with Majula, which is like the reason that I like to start new playthroughs of Dark Souls 2 in itself. I just create my new character, go through the things betwixt, and then boom, the amazing scenery that is bestowed upon my eyes, of which is Majula, is just a thing of beauty. Then I just turn the game off and play a real one instead. But no, in all seriousness, it is a very cool moment. The greenery that goes up to the cliff that overlooks the oceans and down below is the crashing waves, the village-like houses that surround the area, the mountains in the background, the fucking pigs. But yes, the best part about it is the music. It's so angelic and it creates such an atmospheric moment that just makes you not want to leave the area at all. Which is probably a good thing. Elden Ring is a large game. So large, in fact, they fit an entire game underground and below the actual game itself. And this area, of course, is Siofra River, or Nokron, and discovering it for the first time made me ask the question, how big is this game? Turns out it was pretty fucking huge. But the entrance itself to Siofra River was an incredible atmospheric moment. Going down the well and being welcomed by the shiny stars overlooking an entire level was one of my favorite fantasy scenes in any game. And the creativity doesn't just end there. The unique enemy designs, the multiple levels in the same area, atmospheric boss fights. But my second favorite moment upon entering the area was the beautiful singing of the enemies, surrounded by the wildlife, just made for an amazing moment. Dark Souls 3 didn't have much color to it. Went from a dull, depressing area to a dark, depressing area to another dark, depressing area, and as soon as you want to tap out after the hours of playing in these dark areas, the game goes, "Here you go, King. Enjoy the prettiest shit you've ever seen." And just like that, all criticism goes away. Pretty sure everyone in that exact moment upon seeing Irithel for the first time just stood still for like 10 whole minutes and just admired the view. It's such a beautiful scene, but the moment itself doesn't actually just end there. As soon as you walk across the Christmas-themed bridge, you get welcomed by a weird enemy you haven't seen before, and all of a sudden the whole theme of the game just changes as it gets much more magical. Also, a cool note, if you leave the Aldrich Beast alive, he actually meets you later on. Upper Cathedral Ward is perhaps my favorite area in Bloodborne. Has amazing aesthetic, great atmosphere and ambience, and any other word that begins with the letter A, it's exactly that. But the most atmospheric moment actually happens within the cathedral itself. The daunting and horror-like corridors that go into the ominous, big empty room that have the dull light of the chandelier reflect onto the ground, then the shadows start to violently shake as a group of werewolves swing onto the chandelier till it crashes to the ground and you're left having to run from them. Just the tension and atmosphere built in that moment is incredible. Then you spend the remainder of your time in that area just scared to turn every single corner, but when you do, then another werewolf just jumps through the window. The area is just so freaking cool, man. Vendrick is a magnificent king. He defeated the giants, built the castle of Drang Lake, and spent a lot of the time trying to stop the spread of the curse. He was hyped up a lot throughout the game, and you had to fight very hard to get to his destination. But upon arrival, you did not see a magnificent king. You see a man that has been betrayed and shut himself away from the world, ultimately submitting to the curse of going hollow. Now, the king is there, wearing his crown and sword in hand, but he's just mindlessly walking around the undead crypt without paying any attention or notice to us at all. And as the player, you just stand there in front of a once great king, and the only thing you hear is the footsteps of a hollow. The entrance to Ash Lake will always be one of my most fondest memories in gaming, and it was during a time where there wasn't like 1,000 videos going around showing the hidden area. You just figure it out for yourself and then tell your friends about it. Like, yo, there's this really cool looking area in Dark Souls that's like really awesome looking, but you don't really do anything there, but it's still fucking cool. And honestly, it really is. From the narrow sand pathway surrounded by the water that leads inside this massive tree where the dragons is chilling there. There's like cool looking blue sky, funny clam enemies. The music's awesome. There's a hydra that can fucking fly. Like, what's even going on right now? But yeah, definitely the most atmospheric moment in Dark Souls 1. I have only experienced fear twice in my life. The first time is when I almost got run over as a child. The second time is when this bitch-ass motherfucker kidnapped me and took me away. When I first started playing Bloodborne and I saw this cutscene playing after dying, I was scared beyond belief. Woke up in the jail cell and then started to panic. But then I noticed that the guy left the door open like a complete idiot, so I was free to make my escape. However, that was an absolute mistake because as soon as I stepped foot outside, the ominous music started to play, and yeah, I just logged off at that point because it was getting a bit too late for that shit, and I did not sign up to play a horror game. But the next day I did attempt it again, and it was definitely the most eerie and horrifying experience I've ever had in a single area in a FromSoft game, and I never had a single bigger sigh of relief than when I eventually found the lamp to get the hell out of there. But then later in the game you're actually forced to come back there anyway, so... Now this list is really just supposed to be about specific moments, but for this one I want to cheat because the entirety of Upper Latria is an amazing experience, and by far the most atmospheric area in a FromSoft game, period. But really this moment actually starts from before Upper Latria when you walk outside from the prison and see the big statue, but after that it becomes an absolute masterclass in art design, level design, gameplay progression. It just makes for a phenomenal experience, and if you haven't played Demon's Souls before, I strongly recommend that you do. Even if you don't have the money for a PS5, the PS3 version is still just as good. But just everything about it, from the demon-like enemies you fight that jump scare you or when you just see them in the distance with glowing red eyes, going up the tower to break free the chains that eventually changes up the area itself with different enemy placement and more paths to explore, taking the elevator all the way down to the swamp was so sinister and creepy, taking the long stairs all the way to the top just made for an amazing view. It's just such a perfect area that I can talk about it all day, but you're just going to have to play it for yourself to experience the atmosphere. Every boss you fight, you are essentially the enemy and boss from their perspective and their story, but that point rarely ever drives home. However, there was a time where it did. The Maiden Astrea fight in Demon's Souls was a time where it really felt my actions were in question and I was in fact the enemy. I'm here invading this area of a person who only wants to protect the demons and not abandon the soulless, whose intentions are only pure, and she's also alongside her knight who did no wrong and had cast away everything just to be alongside and protect his lady. Yet here I am in this already dying world, killing off what little life and little hope was left. But at the end of the day, good deeds aren't always correct and sinful acts are not always wrong. So we did as we must, but it was never the easiest thing to do.
You killed him, didn't you? Very well. I can no longer resist you. Do as you like. Take your precious demon soul.
Yes, unfortunately, the appearance of Anor Londo is not going to make it onto the list. It is still an amazing area that I love dearly, but it has lacked a little bit in the atmosphere department, hence why I just didn't put it on this list above the other ones. The reason I do want to talk about this, though, is because I feel like most of the game, it was an area that was unfinished. And as you can see on screen right now, this is the streets of Anor Londo, and obviously somebody's glitched into this area, but I just feel like with seeing this, it was a bigger missed opportunity, hence why it's just not going to be on this list. Two nobodies fighting in the middle of nowhere over a little bit of nothing. If that isn't the perfect ending to the Souls trilogy, then I don't know what is. This seemingly weak person, Gale, our former comrade, made it all the way to the end of the world and killed every last person in humanity to conjure up the Dark Soul, just to let us kill him to go back in time to give his blood to his lady for her painting. Like, that's insane. He outlived the dragons, the demons, the gods, even the undead, to the point where the only things remaining were Ash and the Dark Soul. Like, just imagining that picture alone is enough to have this be the most atmospheric moment, but there's like an entire cutscene behind it, amazing boss fight, incredible music, phenomenal scenery behind all of it, which takes place at the end of our Dark Souls journey, where we experienced the rise and fall of kingdoms, triumph and betrayal, good memories and heartbreak. And it was all for what? I forget exactly what that was.
Old Hollow Knight has been subdued. He will cause no more trouble. It's finally over. I will return to Catherine. You assisted us so greatly. I can hardly return the favour, but please accept this. It's of no use to me now.